on just a little bit later to talk about the design and construction of this boat. Until then, just sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Let us know if you need anything or if we can help you in any way. And once again, everyone, welcome on board.
Okay, thank you very much, Captain. So one of her first of many responsibilities will be to blow on our big boat whistle and let everybody know that we're coming. And I want to warn you that the whistle on this vessel is not subtle. So you're going to know when it goes off, and I'll give you a heads up when that's about to happen, and then we'll turn around 180 degrees and head downstream this afternoon. Now call your attention to this big blue and white sign over here that says Bingley and Barrington Navigation. That's our tribute to our captain's great-grandfather, Charlie Bingley, who came over the Choo-Choo Trail in 1898 to participate in the Klondike Gold Rush, and not as a miner or a prospector in his case, but as a boat builder, somebody that would build boats and pilot them to get those people from the end of the trail to the gold field. And if you want to learn more about the family you're traveling with here today, or get familiar with the facilities on this boat, grab hold of one of our gazettes, those newspapers attached to the back of the seat. If there isn't one in your row, we can get one for you. Just ask one of our crew members in the gray shirts. And I'll warn you again that the whistle's going to go off here pretty soon because we've started moving away from the dry dock. So again, if you're outside, especially behind the wheelhouse, be ready. And for heaven's sakes, folks, do not miss this very emotional farewell off to the starboard side, because our crew practices that for you all winter. Whistle and wave. So it always looks just that beautiful. Now, Charlie Bingley has done named Jim, and it was Captain Jim Bingley who started this excursion back in 1950 with his wife Mary. And Jim really liked to build things too, like this dry dock. This dry dock that we all walked across, which is made of leftover Trans-Alaska pipeline. That's what those big gray tubes are running through the middle there. Jim bought some of that at auction to build that dock so we could take our boats out of the water for Coast Guard inspection, hold 100,000 gallons of river, put a boat on top, pump the water out, then it all rises up like an elevator. And Discovery 2 over here, also a recycling project of Jim Bingley. He was the last sternwheeler, in fact, to run freight on the Yukon and Tanana rivers until the late 1960s when she got put out to scrap. But Jim saved her from that junkyard and converted her to passenger service. She's been Discovery 2 ever since 1971. And the big orange paddle wheel on her stern is not there for decoration, any more than the paddle wheel on this boat. You're on the real thing here today. Entirely paddle wheel powered. We've got some bow and stern thrusters that help us turn around more quickly like we're doing right now. But those are not for propulsion, and even though this boat weighs 200 tons, we only need about 39 inches of water to make this trip. Maybe a shallow draft vessel, that's right. That's why Maddie's life jacket built up the paper at home. I don't even know why he has life vests on the top of his head. Oh no! It's over. Put on your life vest, walk to shore, you won't even get it wet. And we'll tell you more about the role of these shallow draft vessels and how they opened up Alaska in the early days before airplanes and railroads. But we're going to talk about aviation first. Not only because there's a plane out there, and we're going to meet that pilot pretty soon, but because 82% of our population is reliant on aircraft at least some point during the year. And in fact, over to our left here, what might look to you at first glance like a big backyard with dead spots in it, is actually a bush airstrip. There's a little runway over there called Founts Field. It's 900 feet long. Good bush pilot will be needing to crash into that. And you can see on your screen it's a pretty quiet spot here today, but look what happens when Josiah rolls time back about 25 years. You see what it used to look like there. Dozens of slow planes and then a super cub on bush wheels, only using about 150 to 200 feet of that field to get off the ground. The tail starts out elevated, and then when he gets to about 40 miles an hour, he'll bump it off the ground. That gives the nose a kick upward, and away they go, just that fast, yeah. And those big tires, the Tundra tires, or bush wheels as they're called, only have about 6 or 7 pounds of pressure in them, so they roll smoothly over rocks and logs and they don't get torn off the bottom. They're like big balloons. But now, as you can see, our pilots like to use rivers for runways too, and that's our friend Steve Knatzer out there in a 1951 Piper Super Cub on floats. And he's going to come alongside our port side here, left side, give you a look at that aircraft, and then he's going to turn around behind us and take off along the left side of the vessel. Now remember, the captain said you don't have to get married to that seat you picked out. You're free to move about the vessel while we're underway. If you're inside, go out. Outside, come in. Just be aware if you're standing, if someone would like a share of the view. I'm sure if we all ask nice, we can figure that out. And everything that we're featuring is going to be on the TV monitor. So you shouldn't miss a thing. 1 out of every 78 Alaskans, by the way, is a licensed pilot. More per capita than any other state. Not surprising when you consider how much area there is up here. You've got a license to fly a plane, and a plane at your disposal turns the whole state into your backyard. Tens of thousands of miles of river and over 3 million lakes. Now I see Steve's rudders just came up, which means he's getting ready to fire up that 150 horse Lycoming engine. Now let's start picking up speed. Take off to the left side. What could be easier than that? And if that happened too fast for anybody, don't worry, because we're going to see him again. He'll take a lap and set back down out there behind us. And while he's on his way, we want to make sure everybody understands that these bush pilots are not just part of our past up here. Very critical in the present, because their little villages get surrounded by snow and ice in the winter, and the only way in or out is a little plane like that on skis. We have a friend who told us about a time that he got a call from the hospital. There was a young lady going into labor in one of those villages, and they wanted him to use his Super Cub to go get her. So he flew out there 2 hours to that village, 2 people into the plane, 2 hours to get back, 3 people got out of the plane. You just let that marinate a little bit. Yeah, you think that's drama when it happens on a jetliner, try it on one of these. That's happened more than once up here. Now, Steve is, again, going to be coming around behind us there. He'll be on the monitor. You can look back toward the paddle wheel, and he'll do a slip turn if the conditions allow to show you how he would get out of the sky very quickly if he's going to land on a little lake surrounded by tall trees. But you can't always make a gradual descent, so you have to kind of corkscrew it down there. So that's what the slip is for. You turn and lose altitude at the same time. That'll drop him right down above the surface, then he'll line it back up and ease his way back down to the surface. He kind of one-foots it a little bit, but this is not gymnastics. If you can walk away from it, it's a 10. And that's how it's done. Steve Knatzer and 24 Alpha out there. And since he is our friend, we get to call him on the radio and see how everything's going up there in the sky today. We'll let him change channels. 24 Alpha, Discovery 3. How we coming through, Steve? Good afternoon. Have you loud and clear. A little warm out this afternoon. Yeah, now that's kind of interesting, because the warmer it gets, it has an impact on how the plane handles, doesn't it? Yeah, I like to explain it to people like flying in jello. When it's real hot, the air is real thin, and then when it's cold, it's like flying in jello. So the plane actually performs better in the colder weather. But you've flown in pretty much everything Alaska has to offer, so we'll start there with your background, because where you grew up, there wasn't much in the way of roads, and in fact, you were flying planes before the state even wanted you driving a car. Yes, I was actually raised out in western Alaska along the Yukon River. I've been piloting these aircraft since I was a teenager. My dad was actually a pilot and instructor, and even had sled dogs out on the Yukon for transportation. Tried my hand at the Iditarod race in 1980. Been in
obvious.